Hey, Joe Scavito here, and today I'll be answering your top questions on B2B events. Your first question is, should I choose online events, offline events, or hybrid? So great question. So the advantages of online events is you can reach a broader audience. So for example, I'm not limited to my local target audience. I can reach people from all over the world, for example, if I run a webinar. Now, the advantages of an in-person event is you get to build that relationship, and it's because you're shaking hands, you're seeing people face to face. The disadvantage of that is it's costly. You generally have to rent a venue space, or you need to pay for a restaurant, or whatever it is. There's additional cost involved. Whether versus an online event, it's pretty easy to implement and run quite effectively. Now, if you want to have a hybrid event where you're hosting an event and you want to do a live stream, you want to broadcast it online at the same time, or if you want to take recordings from the online event and then publish it on social media platforms or your own platforms thereafter, you can definitely do that. So once again, you want to think about the pros and cons, which one makes sense for your specific event. Question number 2, how do I pick the right title for the events? Now, this is something that is a big pet peeve for me because I keep seeing people using the broadest titles you can use. So for example, Digital Transformation 2022 or Customer Experience. Now, they're hoping because that title is so broad that they're going to appeal to everybody. But the problem with that is people keep seeing the same titles over and over. So as a result, it's not resonating with anyone. So that's why I generally recommend going specific when you talk about titles. So for example, we're talking about customer experience for what industries, for what geographies. So for example, instead of customer experience for 2022, I might say customer experience for financial service industry in Southeast Asia, for example. That way I know that it's for me or it's not for me, and I can quickly decide. Question number 3, how do I find or get seen by the right audience? How do I increase the reach? Once again, another big pet peeve of mine is people trying to go as broad as possible. They think, look, if I have 1,000 attendees in my online or offline event, then that's successful. Now, the problem with that is you may have 1,000 people attending, but you may only have 1 or 2 who are actually interested in your products or services. Now, is that a successful event? For me, I would rather have, rather than 1,000 people attending and marking them as leads and chasing them thereafter, I'd rather have 10 people who are really interested, who are qualified buyers, who we don't want to sell to them right there, but we can continue the conversation. We can share a little bit more about what we do. We can share case studies and so on. That for me is a more important metric than saying, okay, how many people we can get. To do that, it goes back to my original point about titles. Be specific as possible. Therefore, you're getting the right audience. Question number 4, what kind of content to share at these events? So it really depends on what you're looking, what the audience is looking to get out of it. So if they are simply going there to networking, make sure you have some networking, some breaks set up, maybe it's coffee or tea or whatever it is, you have that set up. If they're going to learn about their industry trends, then you probably want to have maybe a panel, you want to have experts who can share their own experiences in that particular industry. If they're looking for like futuristic exploration, maybe they're doing their quarterly or annual planning. Maybe you want to have someone talk about the trends or predictions, the stats for the upcoming period or the upcoming year. So once again, it really depends on what you want your audience to get out of it and what they're hoping to get out of it as well too. That'll really dictate the type of content you produce. 5th is, how important is translations when it comes to creating content? So this is one of the challenging parts about offline events. Unless you have like a translator doing it all the time, it is a bit tough. Even with online events, you still have the challenge of maybe you're doing it in English, but your audience is from Thailand or Vietnam or Japan or Korea or wherever it is. And English may not be their first language, so should you stick to English? One thing I always do if I do have an audience which is based, for example, across Asia Pacific, is I try to use more visuals. So rather than using more words, I try to use more visuals because people can process visuals much better than they can process words a lot of the time. Sometimes I'll even include examples in the local language. So just a screenshot from a campaign in Korea or Thailand if I'm trying to showcase to them. Another thing which I'm trying to do more of is speaking slowly. So this is really important if you have an audience that is not, English is not their first language. Make sure that you are speaking slowly, you're enunciating, and you're giving them time to process information. So those are my quick tips for B2B marketing events in 2022. If you guys have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, feel free to check out the newsletter. There's a link below. And thank you guys so much. We'll see you on the next episode.